Let's take a look at how the state budget affects cyber education and the drilling for Marcellus Shale next on Behind the Headlines.
This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to an edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenewald, Senior Fellow of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. And as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Maura Donnelly. Maura, welcome.
Hello, Charlie.
Why, have you gotten any of those tweets from Congressman Wiener?
Oh, no, fortunately, I have not.
Thank goodness. We found a woman in America who has not. I haven't either. But that's all that we'll be talking about that situation on the show in regard to him. But let's talk about another subject which has been very much discussed in the press in regard to this year's budget cycle, and that is the important subject of education. And an increasingly important part of education is cyber education. And perhaps the person who is best equipped and best qualified in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to talk about cyber education is Dennis Tulli. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Dennis, you are the CEO of Connections Academy.
Right.
And you've been on the show before.
Yes.
And how long have you been with Connections Academy?
I started with Connections in 2003 as board president, and then I took a couple years off, and in 2006 I joined them as CEO, and I've been CEO since.
Okay. Could you tell us, our viewers, some viewers have seen you before, but many have not. So just wondered if you could please tell our viewers what Connections Academy is.
Sure. We're a K through 12 public school, just like their community school in terms of how we're funded. Our students come to us from throughout the state. Our school district is the state of Pennsylvania. And most of our students come to us from central Pennsylvania or southeastern Pennsylvania, but now we have students from the Pittsburgh area, the Scranton area, Williamsport, all over the state of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
We've been seeing some tremendous growth since their beginning. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, it was pretty interesting. When we started, we had 400 children in 2003 and 8 teachers, and we've grown steadily. This year we have 5,000 students, 225 employees, and we're located at 6 areas of the state: Scranton, Lehighton, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Williamsport, and Pittsburgh.
Well, that's tremendous growth. What do you attribute that to?
Well, the growth, I think, it is attributed to a number of things. I'd like to say it's because we're so great and people love us, which I think is part of it. But truthfully, school choice is really something that's caught on, something that should have caught on, and this whole school choice movement gives parents another option besides their community school. Not that there's anything wrong with community schools, but for all children, it doesn't work, just like we're not for all children. So when parents have an option, a cyber option, and it works for their child, they stay with us. And so I think that's been really one of the secrets to our growth.
How does Commonwealth Connections Academy reach out and let the families of the Commonwealth and the students of the Commonwealth know that you're there?
We do a number of activities. They're called outreach sessions, where we have programs in the evenings where our teachers meet with families and talk to them about our school. And we announce it on the radio or TV, and we let people know that we're going to have information sessions so that they can attend and learn about our school. But I will tell you that our best vehicle to attract students is word of mouth. Our parents of our children attending right now tell other parents. And
so they're your biggest advocate.
We really have a lot of referrals, and so many so that we actually send thank yous, because we found that they are our number one reason why we're growing so rapidly, are our customers right now.
Oh. Mm-hmm. So with larger classes, you're having larger graduating classes.
Yes, we are. We just graduated 360 children, and our first year was about 90. We had 4 commencements this year across the state, and all in 1 week. So
now do you have
I was
those
a little haggard after that.
Are those online too, or do
No.
they all get together?
Very funny, Maura, very funny. We get kidded about that. Yeah. Why don't we have virtual graduations, right? But no, we have them in person. We had one at the Zembo. We had one in Philly at Drexelwood. We actually have them at physical locations, and we have the families in.
The Zembo is Harrisburg.
Harrisburg here, right? And we have the families in. Penn's Peak and Lehighton, we had one, and at Butler Community College, we had the other.
Wow.
But we have the families in, we have dinner afterward, and we really find out what the students are going to do afterward, and we really connect with the families very closely at those commencement. So it's an evening, it's not just a commencement exercise, it's an entire evening, and it's worked out very nicely.
Well, tell us a little bit about your graduates. What are they doing after they leave you?
Well, they're going in many different directions. A number of the graduates have learned that they're very good at budgeting their time. They're very good at figuring out what they can do, not just 8 to 3 for education, but after school and on the weekends. So they get into careers sometimes that are non-traditional careers. About half of our graduates are going on to college, and many of our graduates have earned scholarships to four-year institutions. And that's something that at first we didn't see a lot of in the first year, but right now we're seeing more and more of that happening. So we're quite proud of the fact that colleges are recognizing our graduates and admitting them and awarding them scholarships.
That's tremendous.
How do you find teachers, Dennis, to work for Commonwealth Connections Academy? How do you recruit teachers? What set of qualifications do you insist upon before you hire any?
It's a good question because people think we hire non-certified teachers, and that is not the case. All of our teachers are certified, and 95% of our teachers are highly qualified, which means that they've done certain things in terms of their training, like coursework, and they've also have experience. But we have many applications for teaching positions, not just now that teachers have been laid off, but over the years, teachers have realized that this is another opportunity for them to teach in a different way and maybe use the technology skills that they have. So they apply with us, we interview them, we give them a technology test, of course, and we've had no trouble filling teaching positions over the years.
Well, when we've had some of your teachers on, we've always asked the question of what was the transition like from the bricks and mortar to the cyber school? And I have a feeling pretty soon we won't even have to ask that question. They'll be coming straight to cyber schools.
Yeah, the ones that come to us from bricks and mortar schools love us because no discipline, no lunch duty, no snow days. I mean, those are the kinds of things the young teachers coming right out of college. The new ones. Yeah. Coming right out of college, haven't had that experience, and while they enjoy being with us, I think that veterans who have been in bricks and mortar schools actually appreciate our work environment a bit more because, as I said, there are not a lot of distractions to their teaching day. They actually do what they were trained to do all day.
Great.
What curriculum do you use? Where did the curriculum emerge from that you've adopted?
Originally, 8 years ago, we used the Calvert curriculum. However, since then, we've built out our own curriculum. So we have over 400 courses, like 20 AP courses, and all of these courses we've developed on our own, and that is our curriculum experts and our teachers working together, along with Calvert and other Pearson. We use the Pearson model a lot, but it's been a learning experience. We feel like we're getting better every year at it because we go through a year and we say, well, we really don't like that English 11 course, so we improve it, and we just think we're getting better every year at the curriculum portion.
Well, we can seldom have a guest on right now that we don't get into discussions of budget and what the state budget and the impact it's going to have. And just for our viewers, can you let us know what kind of impact will reductions in education spending have on your organization?
Well, it's going to be difficult for everybody, and we believe we're all in this together, and we believe that given the state of the economy, we understand the cuts. Obviously, we're not thrilled with it, but we certainly understand that there just isn't enough money to continue to fund education that has been funded for the last 8 years. So we have looked at our budget very carefully, and we know ahead of time basically what our funding level is going to be, because if bricks and mortar schools are cut by, say, 10%, that means we can only bill a certain amount of money, and it's going to be 10% less. And so we've already shaped our budget. We're anticipating the cuts that are coming down the line. We have, as I said, built that into the budget because we do things a little differently. We don't bill taxpayers who pay us. We bill school districts who then have to write us a check. Our main problem isn't with the funding level of the state. Our main problem is that 20% of the schools don't pay us. So we have like $9 million out there receivables yet that that are owed us.
Wow.
And that's what makes it most difficult. But In truth, the funding portion of it, I think we've already worked out because we sort of work ahead in our budget.
How do those schools, 20% of those schools, get away with paying you?
As you probably...
Is this caught up in court?
No, it doesn't get that far. No. Thank goodness for the Department of Education. I mean, we let the department know. It's not that they get away with it. It's just that they delay their payments.
Mm-hmm.
But you know and I know that we have to meet payroll. So if we get payments
causes
delayed,
operational issues
absolutely.
for you. Yeah.
So we after a quarter's over and the school hasn't paid, we notify the Department of Education, and then they withhold the money from the school, and then they send us the money that they were going to send that school.
Ultimately, you'll get
Ultimately, we get the
Yeah.
money. It's just that we're not getting the money when we thought we were going to get it. And that, to us, is a bigger obstacle in the budgeting process because we feel like if the money comes to us, we can do our budget well enough in advance because we are a technical school. There are things that we are able to do in the planning that in a bricks and mortar school sometimes you can't do. And I think I sympathize with their hardships. I was a bricks and mortar school superintendent. I know you still got to pay the oil bill and all the overhead, and I know what they're up against. Ours is, as I said, ours is a little bit different problem. Ours has to do with getting our money on time so that we can keep the school open.
Mm-hmm. When you look into the future, in light of these budgetary considerations, what future plans do you have for Commonwealth Connections Academy? What's the future direction?
Well, we believe that we're at the very beginning of this school choice movement and this online movement that's happening right now. We believe in the future that all schools, all students are going to have to take some online courses to graduate, no matter whether it's a bricks and mortar school, private school, public school. Students are going to have to become familiar with this online world of education. And we believe we have a part to play in that we're ahead of the game. We've been doing it now for 8 years. We feel like we do pretty well at what we do. So we believe we can blend with the educational landscape. We don't want to be the only cyber school in town, and we don't think we can replace bricks and mortar schools. We just think that there's a place for everybody online and bricks and mortar.
So as you look to the future, are you going to be making any significant changes in what you're doing?
Well, in what the school's doing, I think the school's going to continue to grow gradually, but I also think we're going to start to branch out and start to offer programs to schools. If you're a small school district in the rural Pennsylvania and you have 5 children that want to take AP Physics and you can't hire a physics teacher to teach AP Physics, you could come to us, purchase our course, and we can teach the AP Physics course. You have 3 children that are autistic children and you can't hire an autistic child and you don't want to send them 46 miles to the closest IU. We can maybe meet the needs of those autistic children in their home with some support. So there are ways we can blend with all schools, and we just believe it's a matter of time that they learn that and that we get our message out to those schools.
Seems that this would be a very cost-effective way of teaching many of the languages that are so important that our children learn now, such as Mandarin Chinese, Farsi, Arabic, and so forth. And it seems that your school would be a great delivery vehicle.
Our Mandarin Chinese program, our AP courses, our robotics program is growing by leaps and bounds because those are things that schools, they don't want to venture there yet because they don't have enough students and can't find teachers. We already offer the programs.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Right, well, thank you for being with us and giving us
Thank
an
you so
update
much.
on Commonwealth Connections
It's always
Academy.
a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
It's always nice to have you here, Dennis.
Thank you. Seeing you again.
Okay. We'll be back with the second segment of Behind the Headlines right after this. Stay tuned.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania Business Council, envisioning a Commonwealth in which residents enjoy a very high quality of life in sustainable communities. The Council works aggressively to define key long-term policy strategies and solutions that make the Commonwealth more competitive, creating and sustaining a better Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by Daily Express, transporting construction, farm, and industrial equipment throughout the United States. And by Penn Waste, your best local choice for your waste removal and recycling needs.
Penn Waste is proud to be a locally owned business. Since the company's founding in 2000, It has employed many of its neighbors as members of a dedicated team of professionals. Penn Waste is proud of its many contributions to the people of its service area through support of numerous community organizations such as Christmas Addicts and the Junior League of York. One more way they improve the quality of life where they live and work.
Hi, welcome back to the second segment of Behind the Headlines. And this segment, Mara and I are fortunate enough to have Dave Sanko with us. Dave is the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Association of Township Supervisors. Dave, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, we wanted to talk to you about something that's in the news consistently in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and which the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have been exposed to a barrage of information, and that is, of course, on what is going to happen with marcellus shale and the possibility of taxing it, the possibility of having them contribute to Pennsylvania government in one way, shape, or form. Maura and I have been following this, and we thought that we ought to bring you back to see what progress, what movement there has been on this front. Now we know that there's been a division of opinion between the House and the Senate. The Senate leadership, Senator Scarnati, has said that there should be some type of fee imposed. The House Republicans and the governor have been adamant there shouldn't be. What's new, and where do the townships stand on this, Dave?
Well, I think as we look at this economic development opportunity, our township members are finding where it's happening. There's a tremendous amount of local impact, and that local impact is coming at a huge cost. Those costs, we believe, should be borne not by the residents, but by the causal industry. And I think the industry, in most instances, has said that they recognize most of the costs are at the local level, and they are too comfortable with a local impact fee. I think what we've seen over the past several weeks is that Governor Corbett too has suggested that he is comfortable with a local impact fee so long as those impacts can be identified and they are legitimate. I mean, I think the ground rules from the governor's perspective were that this money ought not. There wasn't going to be a severance tax and money rolled into Harrisburg where it would perhaps never be seen again. And we've seen probably a large, I mean, the industry is paying a fair amount of money to the state government in the form of leases and royalties off of state lands to the tune of almost $1 billion already. So the Commonwealth is doing fairly well already. Local government is not, and we're finding, communities that are being altered. The roads, traffic, emergency response, delayed response, detours, school buses, getting to work, getting to the doctors, all those things take longer than they used to take, and it's changing people's lives.
Well, you talked in terms of identifying those impacts, and what you've just mentioned sound a little bit more like inconveniences more than specific impacts. What would be the impacts that the impact fee would address?
Well, I think in terms of training for emergency responders, you're talking about a whole different type of wildfire. What the things they'll have to do, water and sewer lines in communities, and this has nothing to do. We talked about there being a lot of information that's been out there. There's been an awful lot of misinformation as well. Water and sewer may become necessary evils in rural parts of Pennsylvania, not because of any contamination, but simply because of the growth in that community. The land will not be able to support with private wells and on-lot septic systems the increased population.
Well, your association has testified recently before the House Finance Committee here in Harrisburg, and I want to read to our listeners, our viewers, some parts of the testimony, just a brief part, to sort of bring this whole thing into focus a little better and why this continues to be a controversy. I think you folks did a great job in nailing it down. While other natural resources in Pennsylvania are subject to property tax, natural gas reserves have been exempt since 2002, and there's no local tax on the value of extracted gas. Professor Kelsey at the Penn State Cooperative Extension Service in 2009, he did a study that said the lease and royalty income are exempt from the local earned income tax, and except for Allegheny County, townships receive no sales tax revenues unless a township directly leases land for a gas well or receives some payment for gathering lines placed in its right-of-way. It will see little direct revenue from the industry. That's pretty blunt and straightforward, that there's not very much funds being shared by the industry with local government.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, one of the things that local government is counted on in every community all across Pennsylvania is the provision of its infrastructure, and in particular roads, and whether those roads are paved roads or dirt and gravel roads. And there are tens of thousands of miles of those across Pennsylvania. Those roads are built to what a community has needed. Those communities now have much greater needs today, and those roads are being built to a much greater standard to withstand a lot more truck traffic weight. The industry is being very responsible in helping to do those upgrades, but quite frankly, we're going to find in 10 or 15 years, a local community is going to be tasked with maintaining a road that they couldn't afford to build in the first place, and now they're going to have to try and figure out how to maintain it. And we want to make sure that in the future that local taxpayers are not going to have to pick up that burden.
Well, the marcellus shale industry has been doing a tremendous job of touting the benefits that they're going to bring to Pennsylvania, and there's no doubt that it's pretty significant. You know, it's nothing short of a revolution, basically, in terms of what it's going to do for Pennsylvania. But what is your association doing? I know you've been testifying, but what else are your plans in terms of getting the word out about how this impact fee could significantly help townships?
Well, I think as we go through it, I mean, there is a tremendous opportunity for economic growth in the Commonwealth, but we've said with that comes the responsibility to do it right, smartly in terms of planning growth, and to do it safely environmentally. So we've spent an awful lot of time educating our members, making sure that they understand. I mean, the laws are pretty clear. The courts have continually ruled that local community has to provide for every type of activity. So you can't ban this activity. So it must be provided for. It must be done in a planned, safe way. As we go through the course of doing that education, we found an awful lot of misinformation out there, a lot of pushback, a lot of scare tactics, and a community at the end of the day wants to know that their quality of life is not being dramatically affected. That the kids, it's still safe for the kids to drink the water, and you can still get to the doctors. And you know, we've not had instances where somebody's lost their life as a result of a closed road or a detoured road. I talked to one supervisor today who said when one road was being repaired, the detour route was 18 miles longer. That takes a long time for a fire truck to get to a house.
That's pretty
or
significant.
A business.
Yeah. Wow.
What about the whole question of fracking, this method of extraction that's used? And you alluded to the water purity question. Has that surfaced among many of your members?
I think it surfaces because residents will come to a public meeting and raise those questions, and they view their local government as the last line of defense against anything bad that may happen. I think as we look at, I mean, ultimately the fracking process is governed by DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. From what we've and it's way beyond our expertise, but from what we've come to learn about it, with triple casings, triple cement casings, and triple steel casings going down 500 to 700 feet, which is well below the water tables, there is virtually no possibility of those chemicals being mixed into the water table through the fracking process. That's not to say that a truck carrying the excess frac fluid may not slip on an icy road and slide off the road and just have a regular old traffic accident.
Yeah.
And those are a spill.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that you have to safeguard against and be prepared to respond to. I mean, you can't, ideally you want to have zero accidents, but accidents happen.
Well, as you're looking forward here, we've got some. If you were to prognosticate when do you think we'll see some movement on Marcellus shale?
I think it's hard to tell. I think that the governor has been fairly clear that he wants to wait for the work product of the Marcellus Shale Commission to be delivered, which will be July 22nd. And that, by its very nature, would suggest that it would not be happening in the current budget cycle, and it would be something to be more geared towards a fall legislative agenda. The legislature is seemingly equally inclined to want to make it part of the budget. So we have interesting days ahead over the course of the next few days and weeks.
Has the association and have you been pulled into this spirited discussion between the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans on how to approach this subject, Dave?
Well, I think from an association perspective, I mean, we've been fairly clear since the beginning that there are going to be local impacts. Last year we talked about a severance tax with a local share. The governor has moved that dialogue along and said that Harrisburg didn't have a spending or taxing problem, it had a spending problem, so he wasn't going to be paying any more taxes. So that concept of Marcellus shale tax money coming into Harrisburg is off the table. That being said, there are still tremendous costs in the local community, and that's why we've refocused our efforts towards an impact fee. We're incurring the cost, have been incurring the cost. The sooner the better, but later, if it's the wisdom
better
of the
late than
legislature,
never.
better late than never, and as long as there's some level of, we can talk about some level of retroactivity to make sure that the burden doesn't fall on Pennsylvanians.
And am I correct that you actually have a seat on the advisory commission
that
the Lieutenant Governor heads
Further,
up?
I have a seat on the advisory commission, and we're actually, that has been a phenomenal experience. We are learning new things every session, from housing impacts to economic development opportunities to workforce challenges, infrastructure challenges, all those things that are going to change a community, and some of the things you think about and some of the things that you really didn't think about.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave, for updating us, updating our audience, and we wish you well on the commission. Hope that you can wrap up your work quickly and comprehensively, and we will probably be back with more information about this subject in the not too distant future on a future episode of Behind the Headlines. So tune in then. Maura and I will be here. See you next time.
Behind the Headlines is a production of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy, a nonpartisan, nonprofit research organization helping Pennsylvania build a brighter future.